what happens to India if Russia wins? What happens to India's interests if Russia loses? Right? Um, so, what happens in both cases is what all these questions are asking. Kamleshwar Jai Krishna Singh says, what will happen to India's geopolitical perspective if Russia wins or loses the war? Greetings from Amsterdam. Greetings, sir. And so on. So, what happens? See, most likely Russia is winning no matter what they say on social media. As I showed you on the maps, Russia is most likely going to achieve its military objectives in the next 10 days. It looks like that. So, if Russia wins, it secures its possession of Ukraine, then the global order changes because the NATO will not be able to expand that far, and other countries may also be mindful of the power of Russia, and they may try to strike a balance between NATO and Russia. Countries like Poland and the various Baltic republics and so on and so forth. So that would place Russia in a more powerful position. It would also bolster China's geopolitical ambitions, right? So, what does it mean for India? See, the thing is this: let's say Russia loses, they lose the war in Ukraine, they are beaten back. That sort of thing is terrible. Mr. Putin, if that happens, Mr. Putin may lose his presidency also. Somebody else may come into the picture because Russians don't tolerate failure mostly. So Russia would then become a very weak country, crippled by sanctions and so on. In that case, it's bad for India. Why is that? Because India needs Russia as a counterweight to China. Right now, the Russians and the Chinese are cooperating, but let me assure you, it's not a long term cooperation. If you look at the map, you will see what I mean. Where's the map? Look at Russia and look at China. They have a very long shared border. And when you have a shared border and you are both powerful countries, that is geopolitical. I mean, that is a recipe for geopolitical conflict. When you have two powerful nations who have a long shared common border, there is going to erupt into conflict at some time or the other. So, in the long run, Russia and China are geopolitical adversaries. Right now, they are cooperating because it is convenient for them to cooperate. So, for India, it is good to have a strong Russia. A Russia that is beaten back, a Russia that is crippled, is not good for India. And Russia is most likely going to achieve its objectives. In that case, the Chinese will also be bolstered because they are essentially using Russia as a mercenary force right now. So they are cooperating and coordinating with Russia, and they want to essentially create a separate, a parallel global system. A global system that is going to create a bipolar world. One will be the US dominated Western world, and the other will be the Eastern Bloc, Russia and China, and whoever else comes with that, comes into that orbit. So if Russia is stronger, if Russia succeeds, it may actually be good for India. It may give India leverage in negotiations with the US also. If Russia loses, then all the leverage is gone. So it's a complicated situation, but essentially a Russian victory in the long run on the geopolitical chessboard may actually be favorable for India. If Russia loses, India loses a lot of its leverage, and then India will have to go completely into the US orbit. And the US may impose lots of conditions on India.